Everyone. Welcome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Menopause Matters, where we come here to support you as women over 40, as someone that who's going through menopause, and as someone that who understand your frustration, your changes, and how to deal with it. Okay. One of the topics that we have seen a lot in our group is that a bit more sensitive about sex and intimacy. Okay. It is an essential item for us as human. Okay. Guy and female, we all have a need. We all have something that we need to scratch and satisfy. But during this time of the period in menopause, our body have experienced changes. A lot of people are saying that they have lost their libido. They feel like that there's a lot of dryness. They feel like that they lose that sexual attraction. So who better to talk to you from a sex therapist, which I love her. She's been helping our group a lot in answering a lot of the question. Hi, Vanessa. Thank you so much for coming onto our space today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Please tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Vanessa Tarfon, if you don't know me or haven't seen me writing in the post. And I am a qualified sex therapist and the founder of Authentic Awareness. So I have a master's degree in HIV, STIs, and sexual health from the University of Sydney. And my passion essentially is to empower women to own their sensuality, revive intimate connections with themselves and their partners. And I do that through one-on-one therapy or through online courses as well.
Mhm.
And primarily my focus is working with new mothers during postpartum on sexual identity and desire revival, women and couples in midlife transitioning through menopause or experiencing prolapse. And I also spend a lot of time educating health professionals about sexual health and its importance to our overall health. Because I'm not sure if anyone has ask their doctor about sex or
Mm,
relationships, but even gynecologists, GPs, midwives, they actually don't know how to talk about sex as
mm,
well. It's not something that's part of their education and training. So that's the
mm.
other aspect as well that I do.
I hear you because I think that it's we've been brought up in a society that we think that sex is dirty. It is actually a taboo. It is something that we're too embarrassed to actually ask about. Like I was in a relationship for over 19 years. It was a DV, and it was really hard to actually share that because he was my first partner, and I find it very hard to express myself, sharing what I want, sharing what I like I have as well. So I find that this is a very good topic to talk about. And we have like some supporter here saying that, oh my God, this is a good segment. I say, yes, it is, because there's a lot of ladies that who have asked a lot of questions about their sexual health, and they find that, they just don't know who to help. So let's first start with the addressing some of the sexual concerns. Like, what are the three most common sexually related complaints from menopause women?
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot that we could talk about, but let's just talk about the top three.
Mm,
Firstly, as you've mentioned already a couple of times, low libido or low
mm,
sexual desire. So this is just where there's no drive to engage in sexual activity, and that can be either individually or with a partner. But it also can include the lack of sexual thoughts or fantasies. So
mm,
literally just not thinking about sex at all.
mm,
And there is a number of reasons why women's libido takes a hit around menopause. But the
mhm,
most important thing really to know is that these factors all fall across what we call the biopsychosocial spectrum.
mhm,
And so biology and hormones are only one component of that very large
mhm,
spectrum. A lot of issues actually come from poor sex education,
mhm,
particularly around pleasure and aging, and especially around female desire and how it differs from male desire.
mm.
And I'm sure if people think about their own sex education, way back in school, it was really bad.
Yeah, it was porn.
So,
I think that's all the sex
yes,
education I got.
exactly. Um, and yeah, I know there are, as we said, a lot of women in this group asking about this subject. what they can do. But, unless you're asking them right questions at the very beginning, for example, why, it's very difficult to sort of solve the problem about sex and libido, because we're all very, very individual. So one person's solution isn't going to be the same as yours necessarily. The second complaint is around difficulty or inability to orgasm. Now, that can come from limited understanding and education, again, about sex and foreplay, which means that women aren't giving their body the time and space that they need to become aroused enough. And they don't know what signs their body is going to show them to actually show that they're aroused enough to get there. And also, the other thing is that once you have difficulty, the more you think about it, then becomes a bit psychological, because you start to think about it, the worse the situation actually gets, because it becomes this vicious cycle of, it's not happening. Why isn't it happening? I'm thinking about it. I'm in my head now too much that I'm not relaxing. Or it obviously can come from physical changes that are causing pain, discomfort, or we can have sensory changes at this time as well. There is a lot happening with women's genitalia at this time of life. And if those changes are impacting, your desire or arousal responses, then reaching that peak is harder. Which then leads into the other most common complaint of painful sex. So that can be from a lack of lubrication or other, physical genitourinary reasons, or from psychological fears or thoughts that are blocking those arousal physiological changes from taking place. So similarly, as I said about the orgasm, if you are thinking this is going to hurt, it hurt me last time, and that's now become a repetitive thought, then you aren't present in the moment. You're not in tune with what's going on with your body, and it's not making the changes that you need to avoid pain. So things like releasing additional liquid for lubrication, moving your internal organs around, or what many people don't realize is that we actually release a natural painkiller. So there is a lot more to reducing painful sex than just lubrication, which is what we hear everywhere.
I see. I see. That is very interesting. One of the questions that people always have is about their libido. So can you explain a little bit more about it, and how do people increase their libido now that we are in this menopausal stage?
So without obviously getting specifics on people's health and lifestyle and keeping this very general, I do have 3 top tips that I can share with the group of where you can start. So first and foremost would be to acknowledge what your sexual barriers are. So this is your why. And as I mentioned, desire is impacted by factors across that biopsychosocial spectrum. Which, if you don't know what that means, it essentially means anything and everything will impact your libido. It is also a lot harder to turn on than it is to turn off. So write down a list of everything that stops you from having sex. And if you are in a relationship as well, note down if it stops sexual activity, both just individually or only with your partner. And think about everything. So health, work, family, lifestyle, general relationship, medication, sex education, stimulation, everything. Be really honest in your list, and then write down whether you think each one is a reason or an excuse. So a reason will generally have you feeling quite comfortable. You'll be thinking about alternatives or alternative times that you can do something, whereas an excuse will generally make you feel a bit uncomfortable because it's really not true. Now, if you do have health or medication concerns, speak to your doctor, because there are, different medications that they can put you on. For instance, if something is impacting your libido, or you might need a vaginal estrogen or a bit of testosterone as well that can help. But against each one of those barriers that are reasons, not excuses, put an impact level out of 10 for each one. So 10 being the strongest impact, 1 being minimal. And then write down something that you can do every day to remove or reduce that impact. So if you've got one, for instance, ranked at a 10, think about, if you can just drop it to an 8, what would that look like? What could you do to drop it to an 8? And then you just keep progressing through until you've sort of got that impact down to a minimal level, or gone completely. Everyone progresses, at their own speed. And you really just work your way through those barriers so that you can drop them down. The second step, which is linked to that, is to boost your turn-ons, or what I call stimulants. So the first step is often the hardest, especially when people are tired. And it's just too much effort to be sexual. So as much as we want to remove our barriers or turn off, it is a balancing act with amping up those turn-ons too. So women commonly experience what we call responsive desire, and men more commonly experience spontaneous desire. So for women with responsive desire, your turn-ons will likely start hours before physical sex actually starts. And what you want to do is find your perfect conditions, right? So where is sex perfect for you that you think, yes, I absolutely want to go into this? And you do that by analysing past sexual experiences, what worked, what did you like? And it's good if you've got multiple instances, because then you can, sort of do a comparison. But if you don't, you've only got one, that's absolutely fine. It's still workable. I do have a PDF with questions that I can send to anyone who is interested. But essentially, you need to think about, everything that's happening around that experience. What turned you on? Think about, smells, sights, touches, words, context, location, everything. You will also have a preferred sexual initiation style that, if you and your partner play into, is going to give you the most benefit. And there are 4 categories of those. And I know this is a lot of information that I'm giving you, but it's probably good this is being recorded. So the first category is sensation. So just think about, physical touch and sensations. So touch me, feed me, play with me. Then you've got sentimental or emotional. So where you want to connect deeply with the partner, you want to talk. Surrender. So that's about giving up control, take the control off me, blindfold me so that you heighten my other senses. And then you've got seductive, which is flirt with me, tease me. I like the thrill of anticipation, role play. If you can work all of that in and understand what works best for you, it's going to help you a lot as you're delving in.
I think that a lot of the ladies will have this question: how do I communicate to my partner to get what I want? Because for myself, I find it hard to talk to my ex-husband about it, because first thing, I don't know what I'm doing, don't know what's the expectation, don't understand any of this. And then after I come out, I study over 40 relationship courses just to try to understand what is relationship, what is intimacy, what is a man. So all of those things have taught me to be this person that finally I learned how to actually speak up for what I want in the relationship, and especially in the bedroom. So for those of us that who doesn't have that training, who find it hard to share what they want with people, what are some of the easier tips that we can do to express ourselves?
So very simply, easy. The first step is to actually do things like this, where just for yourself, you're being really clear on what it is, so that you go into a conversation, you know exactly what it is that you want to say, especially where you do need to pick up that vocabulary to be clear. Then you need to organise a time to really sit down with your partner. Might be something very simple that you can just, say to your partner, hey, I want to sit down and talk about our sex life and intimacy in our relationship. Otherwise, you might have a partner that does a bit of stonewalling, so you might need to preempt that conversation, say, hey, can we sit down on the weekend, organise a time to sit down and have it. Be very clear by using I statements as well. And you want to look at approaching the conversation from a solution-focused point of view. So I feel blah, 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 blah. I would like to improve this for us by this. Do you think we could try this? Or do you have a solution that you think, how do you feel about this? It's all about being really clear. And one of the first things that people actually need to do in relationships is define, as you said, what is intimacy. Intimacy for everybody in everyone's relationships is very different. And people don't often quite understand what that is. And intimacy also includes all those non-sexual acts as well. Men have a different view on that going in quite often, and they need that explained because, you know, women do complain to me quite often about this lack of romance that they feel. So why would they want to have sex when they're not feeling, you know, the connection with their partner? Men use sex more to get connection, whereas women like a connection before they go in to have sex. So it's really just getting on the same page and having regular conversations as well, and setting barriers up, boundaries up too. I'm not ready to do this, but this is where I'm ready to work right now. This is what I'm willing to do.
That is good. Also, I find that men can get very offensive when we talk about sex with them. Thank God my partner is good about that. He don't mind it. He actually find it very quite a turn on. But for other men that who have insecurity issues, what is the best way to bring it up onto it? Because I hear you, it's like the I statement is good, but it's so easy for them to listen to it as, oh, she thinks I'm not good enough. Oh, she thinks that she's blaming me for something. So what are some of the sandwich talk that we can actually give them to make them feel like that it is for the both enjoyment of us instead of a blame or being defensive?
Yeah. I think, as you said, it's the sandwich method, right? And it's making it very clear at the very beginning of that conversation that this is something you want to do to make things better and to connect with them. And that I would make it very, very clear at the beginning of the conversation that this is not about blaming anyone. And you can say, you know, I had terrible sex education at school. I don't know what you had, but, you know, we know this, and there's a lot of research around it. And, you know, make it really clear to them that men don't get the education either. We don't talk about sex and aging, and we don't teach men either about women. It's all, as you said, a lot of it comes from the terrible sex education at school, which is all about reproduction and contraception. If you're willing to have a conversation with your parents, you get some from there. And depending on how open your parents are, and generally for us in this over 40 age group, our parents were not very open. We're talking about sex. So porn was the primary location that we got our education from. So it's really explaining to them and saying to them, I would like to make improvements, and also that sex is about, and intimacy is about constant exploration. It is a learnt skill. We don't come out, you know, at birth knowing how to have sex. It's something that we learn over a period of time, and we continue to explore whether you have issues or not. This is what everyone does. So yes, I statements, sandwich it in, be really clear that you're really wanting to solve and make things better, and that there is no blame being placed on anyone.
That is so true, because I find that men sometimes can get even more sensitive than a woman when we're talking about intimacy and sex, because they, okay, put it this way. I don't know if this is correct. You can actually correct me onto it if I'm wrong. A man, like a man, not a boy, okay? A man is there to wanting to pleasure their partner. They want to actually ensure that you have a great time so they can actually fit their ego as well onto it. Is that statement true?
It is absolutely true that men want to pleasure you. Yes. Yeah. And this is then where we get this barrier and this problem where women then aren't given the vocabulary or the confidence from a very young age to speak about it, and to ask for what they want and what they need. But honestly, confidence is the biggest turn on for men. As long as you are confident in yourself, and you can portray that, and you can tell them exactly what you need. I always talk, you know, if you've got a partner, about bespoking your partner, and it's it's how you keep them in tune with you, and they don't mind. They want to know. Yeah,
Mm.
if they're doing something wrong, they want to know how to do it better, because as you
Yeah.
said, it also feeds their ego.
Yeah.
um and yeah, they want to think that they're giving you exactly what you need. I mean, if they can give you multiple orgasms, that's like the
Yeah.
pinnacle for them, right?
Exactly. I hear you. Like one of the things that I do with my partner is I always say that when you do this, I feel this as that is turning me on. And that is something that I find that yes, a lot of us don't have that confidence to actually say it to our partner, thinking that if I say that, will he think that I have too much experience or am I the S word over there and things like that. And I think a lot of us do have to realize that we do come first. At the end of the day, we're women over 40. We have lived so much a part of our biggest life, part of our life. Isn't it time to stop all those BS and start looking after us?
Pretty much, yeah. And that's where I talk about as well, menopause being a time of sexual liberation, because
Mm,
yeah, you're not worrying either about unwanted pregnancies and all this other stuff, and protection and all of these things. Yeah, it is a great time to find yourself. And as you said, we've gone through so much now. Honestly, I'm in that phase of life too, where I just think I don't actually care anymore. I'm just gonna do me.
mm,
And if it suits other people around me, great.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and your partner will get on board with you in most instances where we talk about,
mm,
healthy relationships, obviously.
yeah,
They love it. And men want to explore as well. I mean,
mm.
it'd be very rare for a man to say, oh no, I'm not willing to try that. Oh no, I'm not willing to get a paddle and,
Yeah,
try spanking you a bit and see whether that works.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's all about trial and error when it comes to sex every time.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. It is about understanding that, like instead of using blame or demand, make it sexy, make it fun by realizing that you are beautiful, you're confident. Doesn't matter how much wrinkle we have, or the extra cinnamon roll we have in our body, or what color is your uni. They don't care as long as they're getting some.
Yeah, they don't care whether you shave your legs or not. And
Yes.
I always tell women, just do things as you think, don't think that you have to be sexy by wearing a particular outfit. Or, even when I say to women, okay, you want to give your partner a lap dance, go for it. If you're not, sexy, you don't know how to give a sexy lap dance, like, and
Yeah.
let's think, sort of a strip tease. If you're funny, put your personality into it too. Like, you don't have to put on an additional persona. Make it yours. It'll be just as great, I promise, because you're confident, you'll be enjoying yourself, and so will your partner as well.
Definitely. It is all about having fun. I think a lot of us forgot that it is about fun. Sex and relationship is about having fun and making you happy. If it's not doing it for you, it is something for you to look into and see what else can you actually do it better. Because at the end of the day, we are allowed to make our own choices.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, it has been such an amazing talk with you today. Thank you so much for coming on board to our show. I'd love for you to come back to do a full webinar with us to actually help us to understand these stages of our life and how do we actually improve our sex drive when like to actually make sure that we feel like a woman again. I know sometimes that it is really hard to get us going at this time with everything that's going on. So what else can we do to help? So I'd love to actually invite you to come back onto our Knowledge is Power Thursday.
Thanks, Mother. I'd love to come back.
Wonderful. Thank you, Vanessa, for being our special guest today. Thank you to all our audience and listeners for joining us on Menopause Matter Tuesday. Looking forward to seeing you next week. Bye again.